Get ready. It's time for the Idaho Podcast with your host, Danny Ventura. Welcome back to the Idaho Podcast, where we feature the people that live, work, and play in Idaho. So happy to have you with us today. Today, our featured guest is Greg Geremesz, who is the owner of VitaSupreme. And Greg, thanks for being with us today.
Well, Dan, thanks for having me here. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. And Greg has a list of many accomplishments, and rather than me try to memorize them and flub it up, I'd rather read it for you. So if you'd bear with me, I'd like to share a little bit about Greg and his background. Greg founded VitaSupreme, a values-based company dedicated to creating the highest quality natural and organic supplements over 20 years ago. He is a health and nutrition expert specializing in optimizing the performance of men and women over the age of 45. He is passionate about helping individuals achieve peak performance through personalized nutrition plans and lifestyle interventions. As a professional business, relationship, wellness, and peak performance coach, Greg has worked with professional athletes, executives, and high-performing individuals to help them achieve their goals. He understands the importance of proper nutrition and lifestyle factors in enhancing performance, and he is committed to helping clients achieve their full potential. In addition to working with clients one-on-one, Greg is also a speaker and a writer on the topics of health, nutrition, diet, and business. He does have out an ebook entitled Transform Your Business Today that is available on his website that we'll talk more about a little later in the broadcast. So again, thanks for being with us, Greg. And why don't we just start off by having you share a little bit about yourself with the listeners that we didn't already share.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Well, I'm 56 years old. I now live in Idaho. I have 4 children. I have 3 grandkids. And I love health and fitness, and I love all things business. I love going to the movies, going out to eat, good quality food, that is, right? I just love having fun.
That's awesome. And you're an avid soccer player.
Yes, I play soccer twice a week. I love it.
You now live in Idaho. I think you've been here for about a year.
Yes.
What brought you to Idaho?
Well, I lived in California since 1975. And the conditions in California just got to the point where there's so much crime, and crime's allowed, basically. We had a situation in our neighborhood where we had a guy rob 2 houses and steal 2 cars all in the same day and was let out at the end of the day. Huh. And, and there's homeless everywhere. It became unsafe. The taxes are extremely high in California. California's a beautiful state. I mean, my God, driving up and down the coast is amazing. I love Laguna Beach. I love so many areas of California, but in the weather, you can't beat the weather, especially like in San Diego. Oh my God, perfect. But that being said, it just got to the point where it was a little too dangerous to live there, I felt, and too expensive, and it has poor leadership, in my opinion. So I wanted to live somewhere where there are patriots, that people that love this country, people that have family values, people that cherish friendships and relationships. And, when we first got here, almost a year ago, Claudine and I were looking out our window and we saw this guy out there snow plowing the entire sidewalk for everybody. And he went and did people's driveways too. Didn't even ask for any thanks or anything. He just did it because he had the machine and he felt it's the right thing to do. And Claudine just started to cry. Tears started coming down her eyes after watching that. And I got a little choked up too, because that's not something we'd experienced in California. Not that it doesn't exist, but we hadn't experienced it. And it seems like everything in Idaho is that way. Every time you drive past someone on the street, they're putting their hand up. Every time you walk down the street, you can't just walk to your mailbox and back. You got to take a little bit of time because you're going to have a conversation with someone, right? And I just love that about this place. Crime is extremely low, if any. Mm-hmm. I've never even seen graffiti, which was rampant in California. And so the minute I got off the airplane here, became home instantly.
Yeah. I agree. And you're right. California is a beautiful state. And as I've shared with the listeners before, Kathy and I, my wife, we were both born and raised in California. And we moved here about a year ago as well. And there's just Idaho is beautiful too. It's just a different kind of beauty.
Yeah.
But I will say the things you mentioned, and especially the people and the authenticity of the people here, and the genuine care and friendliness of the people is really incredible. And then I know the Four Seasons is a big draw for a lot of people. The true Four Seasons.
Oh my God, Dan! When I saw fall for the first time, and the reds and yellows and greens, the trees were just, it looks like a picture.
Right.
It looks like it's like God's country for sure.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. Well, again, being the owner of VitaSupreme for over 20 years, and it's a vitamin and supplement company, and things that you produce are all your own formulas. And I know you know a lot about that. But in particular, health and fitness, how has health and fitness really driven your passion?
Well, it started a long time ago. In fact, I was born in Port Huron, Michigan, just outside of Detroit. But I was born premature back in 1967, and I was born at 3 pounds. And I was in an incubator for 10 or 12 weeks, and the doctor finally put me in a shoebox, handed me to my parents, and said, "He's going to die. Just take him home to die." And so they figured it'd be nicer to die at home than in the hospital. So they did that, and I ended up living and surviving and thriving. I had some, earaches and certain lung challenges when I was younger. And so I've always been a little frail from that standpoint. But it really started when I was in my 20s. I was tired. I was lethargic. I didn't want to get out of bed. I wanted to sleep in, and I was yawning all day. So I went to the doctor, went to a couple doctors actually. And the doctor ran blood tests and all kinds of stuff. He said, he came, he said? He said, "You need to drink more coffee." He said, "Just drink coffee in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. Whenever you feel tired, just drink more coffee." And I thought to myself, this makes no sense whatsoever.
Right.
So I went back and I started studying and reading books. And I came across a book called The Miracle of Fasting, and by Paul Bragg. And I went on a 10-day water fast. So I just had water with a little squeeze of lemon in it, nothing else. And everybody thought I was crazy, but I did it. And by about day 4, I had more energy. I knew what to do it, Dan. I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing.
After 10 days of no food, you felt more energy.
I felt more energy after day 4.
Incredible.
So when I got to day 10, I felt even better. I was afraid to eat. I thought, if I eat something, maybe I'm not going to feel this way. So I was afraid to eat. But I learned in the book that, if I eat healthy foods, I'm not going to have that effect. And, I would just do a cleanse every now and then. But that started me on the path of studying and learning and questioning maybe what sometimes the doctor says to you, in that case in particular. And I felt great. Then the second event happened where my mom and dad died both in their early 40s of terminal diseases.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And that led to me raising my brother for 3 years. And then he moved out of my house and he put a shotgun in his mouth because he missed his parents.
Oh my God.
So it had such a snowball effect, losing my parents in a lot of ways. But they didn't have to die. I mean, I believe with nutrition and health and diet and the understanding that we have today, if we had it back then in the early 80s, that, my parents would be here with me today. So it became a major passion after that. And I decided I didn't want to lose anybody in my family ever to something that could be taken care of by lifestyle and diet and supplementation and nutrition and other things. And so it just became a passion. To this day, I'm up late at night, sometimes at 2 a.m, learning about some new health thing that came out that may be able to help people. And so I love it. It's a passion.
Yeah, and it exudes out of you, and it's something I noticed about you from the very moment I met you a few months ago, and it's something that you can feel the passion that you have for it, and I love when you can feel somebody's passion about something, and in your case, being health and fitness. That's pretty cool. You mentioned some tragedy that you never shared with me before, and that's some pretty hard tragedies you've had to go through, and I too have had some tragedy in my life, and people deal with tragedy in different ways, but we can either allow tragedy to define us, or we can allow tragedy to refine us. And it sounds to me very much like you allowed it to refine you.
Yeah.
And you continued to live your life because you knew you had to go forward, and you're going forward in the best way you know how.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's so cool. So What inspired your mission with your company, VitaSupreme? What has inspired your company mission of nurturing health in your prime years? Obviously, you've shared your passion about health and fitness, but nurturing your health in your prime years. So, what inspired that mission for your company?
Well, I'm in my prime years, so either call it midlife, call it prime years, call it the second half can be better than the first half. I really believe that, and I feel that way. I still play soccer at a high level. I play with 30-year-olds and people that are a lot younger than me at times, and I can still play the game with them and stay in there with them. And I work out with guys that are a lot younger than me, and so if I'm able to do that, I do it. I'm not as fast as I used to be, obviously, and there's some components that you miss out on, but it doesn't have to end. I know so many people that just stop working out or stop doing sport or stop enjoying their life because they think they're too old, because they've been told they're too old, or maybe society has told them they're too old. But it doesn't have to be that way. In addition to that, I don't know about you, but I've woken up with a sore back. My knees were sore climbing a set of stairs. I know guys that bend over to pick up a pencil and throw their back out because they're not taking care of themselves, So I wanted to focus on my group of people that I knew and understand more than anything. A lot of companies, they want to sell to everybody and anybody who will willing to buy, but I want to take care of our age group. We have different needs. We need stronger anti-inflammatories because I don't know about you, but I don't know of any disease or any ailment that doesn't include inflammation. So if we can reduce inflammation, and I put certain ingredients at stronger levels in our products, that will have a greater effect on our population, 45, 50 and older. And so that's kind of how that started. It started for me. I wanted to stop having a backache and a knee pain and all this other stuff. And as I studied and researched and decided to change the formulas to the point where it supports people in their middle age and their prime years, and I did that, and people have been getting a lot of great success from it.
For sure. Well, one of the things I was so impressed with you about a few months back when I met you, and it's just your knowledge base and expertise, honestly, with vitamin and supplement, the kind of the organic and approach that you take to it. I know I shared with you right before Thanksgiving, I got this horrible cough, and I was using over-the-counter cough syrups and took it for weeks. And honestly, it would just cause the cough to be suppressed for maybe an hour, but the cough was there and it was still deep and harsh, and it just wasn't going away. And no matter how frequently I took it. And then you were telling me about this supplement that I ended up buying. It's not even something your company offers, but you cared enough to say, no, you got to get this product. And I had taken it and took it every day, as you told me, and my cough got better. Not overnight. It wasn't like a magical thing, but it certainly progressed or much quicker than it was progressing with taking the cough syrups, and better for me, right? And honestly, I felt better also because you had mentioned that it helps your lungs capacity and so forth, and I actually felt that, and so I thought, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about. Your breadth of knowledge on the topic is so impressive that you even shared a product that your company doesn't even carry.
Well, I believe in a philosophy of helping you, not selling to you. I kind of take the Miracle on 34th Street model, where Kris Kringle was sending people away from Macy's to go buy a toy that maybe Macy's didn't have, maybe send to the competitor Gimbals,
right?
And it was just the right thing to do, And so I want to help people, not force them into my particular products. And maybe that's a product I'll make at some point, but it's important to help people get better. And I love you telling me that story. I love hearing how something that a little tiny bit of advice that I gave you helped you.
And it
touches my heart.
That's great. Well, I appreciate it, because that's something I would have never done otherwise. So, I'm really big on people's why. So why do we get up out of bed? What motivates us? But Simon Sinek has a book out. It's been out for a few years, but it's a great book that I always recommend to business leaders and honestly anyone, because it's applicable to just life in general. But it's called Start With Why. And I love the book, and I absolutely subscribe to the philosophy of it. And so keeping in that mindset, would you say that mission of helping folks, that nurturing health in your prime years, would you say that is your why?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I love helping people in any way I can, but nutrition is kind of my favorite part of it, is helping people, because it's simple. If you start eating well and you start taking certain supplementation, because we just can't get the same amount of nutrients out of our food. So we need to supplement to some degree. Some people more than others. It depends on your diet and your lifestyle and everything else, but it's a need. And so when I can see offering a little tiny bit of advice or giving somebody a certain supplement, and all of a sudden their life changes, they feel better, they light up, kind of like you did telling me about that story when I recommended that product to you before. I said, that's what drives me. That feeling of helping someone and contributing to their life to help them grow.
That's awesome. I know your product is widely available through your website on VitaSupreme.com. And tell me a little bit about some of the products you offer there and why you feel they're so important to offer.
Yeah. Well, we started our company with a product called Supreme Greens. And it's an organic blend of vegetables, grasses, and different juices and antioxidants and all that good stuff. And 100% organic. And it's just been our flagship product. And, I don't know about you, but most people don't get enough vegetables. The FDA recommends 5 to 7 servings of vegetables. That's a lot of vegetables to eat.
If French fries are a vegetable, I've got it covered.
I don't think that one counts. But yeah, that's what most people say. Well, I'm getting plenty of French fries. But most people don't get it. So taking a green supplement is essential for a lot of people, because otherwise they're just not getting the nutrients they need. Because most people can't afford, when I say afford, I don't mean financially, but to eat 5 to 7 servings a day of vegetables. It's hard to do.
Sure, that's a lot.
So we created that supplement. We have a protein that's an all natural protein, grass fed from cows at a farm in Wisconsin. So we cut out the middleman. We go straight to the source and get the best quality ingredients we can find. And we have a whole range. We have stuff for pain, for sleep, for certain men's formulas and female formulas, and we have a whole range. We have about 25 products. We're constantly growing it, and when new research comes out on new ingredients, I'll reformulate and add ingredients that I feel are going to even better the product.
That's great. So, and I also know, because you are so passionate about helping people, you make yourself available for free consultation about that when they're looking at products like that.
Yeah.
And so they can reach you on your website, I believe, right at Greg at VitaSupreme.com.
Yes.
And if people have questions of what you think I should be using for this or the other thing, and I know you're real good about that, and you're able to share your advice, your expertise, and also your personal experiences with that. And not too many organizations or companies do that. I think that's terrific that it comes through your passion.
Oh, thank you, Dan.
Yeah. You had shared with me you spent a number of years working with Tony Robbins, the motivational leader, Tony Robbins, and world renowned. And I think you started out as a motivational coach, and then you also started working with his program called Platinum Partnership, that was experientially more about helping organizations, communities, people. And you spent some time there, and then ultimately you finished your career with Tony Robbins as actually a member of his security team. I'd love to hear more about each one of those roles, kind of high level, but I'm sure the audience is interested too.
Yeah, well, it actually started in 1989 when I was on vacation in Hawaii with my girlfriend. We one night we had a fight because I wanted to go somewhere and she didn't, and so I got upset and I went out to the bar and had a few drinks, and I came back and I was flipping through the TV and I saw an infomercial with Tony Robbins on it. And I just remember him saying, if your life isn't what you want it to be, try something else. And if that doesn't work, try something else. So I drunk dialed and I ordered the cassettes at the time. And you can tell how old I am and how long ago this is, right? It changed my life. And prior to that, when I was going home from Hawaii, I was in line at the airport, and guess who was in front of me? Tony Robbins. He didn't have his jet and all his stuff then. He was just getting started out in life. And so I shook his hand. I said, I just bought your cassettes. He said, oh, man, listen to them all. They're really good. You're going to love it. It'll change your life. Went home and I did that. I told you about my mom and my dad and my brother and what I went through. It was listening to Tony Robbins that got me through that. that kind of helped me get out the other end and refine myself instead of define myself from that event. And so from there, I went to work for Tony as a coach, as a life coach. So people come out of his seminars, if they couldn't afford his fee to work with him, there were so many people too. So they would work with me and some of the other people. And we were part of his very first coaching class that he trained. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years. But then I started my business, and my business was growing to the point where I didn't have enough time to do that anymore. It was a bigger financial opportunity for me to run the business. So I did that for a handful of years. And then I started going to his seminars and just getting tune-ups and things of that nature. And he had a program called Platinum Partnership, where at the time there was 40 of us that would get together and travel anywhere around the world, like to Dubai or to Israel or Alaska or New Orleans, just different places. And we'd spend 5 days together. And Tony would give lessons. He would be teaching, life skills, business skills, whatever the topic may be in that period of time. But we'd take at least one day out. And when we were in New Orleans, we helped build a house. It was right after those New Orleans floods. And in Dubai, we did some charity there as well. And we got to spend time with the Sheikh. And Dubai was amazing. He took us there during the financial crisis of 2009 to show that not the whole world is experiencing that. Dubai had when I came from the airport to the hotel, there were 40 cranes building high rises. And so when we got to speak with the Sheikh over there, he said that they anticipate running out of oil at some point. So they're trying to become the Las Vegas of the Middle East. And it was just a great place. In fact, I got to go on a Black Diamond ski resort when it was 112 degrees out. It was an indoor ski resort. And then an hour later, we were sand duning on sandboards, down hills, and riding camels. And it was just an amazing experience. And it kind of showed what's available out there, even while there's a downturn in the market.
An indoor ski resort.
Yeah, a Black Diamond.
Black Diamond. So it would blow snow in there and keep the temperatures cold? So it wasn't synthetic?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
But just a unique experience to be in that much heat, and all of a sudden we're snow skiing, wearing snow stuff.
Right.
That was great.
Yeah. And then you finished your career there.
So I did that. That was just a group that we would join if you were able to. And then I did that for about 3 years. And then I figured, okay, that I need to move on to other things. And I got a phone call at some point, and Tony Robbins was looking for help on a security team, but he wanted people that he knew. He knew me from the Platinum Partnership and from the coaching and some of the other stuff. So he's a celebrity, and so confidentiality is important. And so I did that for about 7 years. It was just a part-time thing, though. It was more of my way of giving back to him for all that he's given me, whether he knows it or not. He was kind of a mentor to me, through his books and tapes and seminars. And then he was clearly a mentor to me in the Platinum Partnership.
Mm-hmm. So, and during that time with Tony Robbins, you were in your 30s and early 40s. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was in my 30s when I did the coaching. I was probably in my 40s when I was on the Platinum Partnership, and then my mid 40s to early 50s when I was doing security bodyguard work.
Mm-hmm. So it was a number of years, and again, concurrently during some of that time, obviously you had your business running.
Yes,
that's quite a plateful.
Yes. Yeah.
So with your tragedies, then your life, and the fact that you spent so many years helping others through the Tony Robbins program and so forth, how did that shape your life? I mean, it had to be super impactful.
Oh my God, yes. The thing that probably shaped my life most around spending time around Tony was that he's just a genuine person. What you see on stage or on TV is exactly the way he is in the limo or behind the scenes. He's that person, and he's just a kind, loving, caring person. And it's clear that his only mission in life is helping people. And, I'm attracted to that because I want to help people as well. And I learned so much from him, so much.
You mentioned you've learned so much. What do you think and again, it could be difficult to narrow this to one thing, but what is either the one or two or three greatest impacts that you've carried with you through the experience with Tony Robbins?
I think it's just to be who you are, be genuine all the time. I just saw the kindness and the caring and how you can become successful and still keep your value system in place. You don't need to be somebody different when you're selling something or you're on stage or whatever. You can just be who you are. In fact, it's always better. People are attracted to genuineness. We don't always believe that, but it's a fact.
Well, you can just take our example of moving to Idaho, and we mentioned the authenticity and the genuineness of the people of Idaho.
Yeah.
That was one of the compelling reasons that drew us here.
Yes.
And so to your point, I completely agree with that. Yeah, that's fantastic. So, you are a man of many talents. You fitness, health, soccer, business, not only a business owner, but now a business consultant that we'll talk about in a minute, but a family man. How is it that, because from my perspective, in viewing you and watching you and getting to know you, you certainly seem to have a real good handle on work-life balance. So what is your secret, or what are your secrets of maintaining that work-life balance?
Well, I don't know if I have work-life balance, but I try to.
Okay.
We strive for it, right? I have days that I work 15-hour days. And I don't know that that's great balance, but what I'll do is I might do that once or twice, but then I'll take half a day off the next day or something and spend time with family. And the way that I keep balance is I focus on it. I make it important. I make my relationship with Claudine important. I make my relationship with my kids important. So I make sure I spend time with them and quality time. I make my business important, spend time with my business. I make my spirituality important. So I spend time with God. And, if you focus on it and you write goals in each of those areas, most people don't. Maybe they write their health goal down or their financial goal, but most people don't have a relationship goal. Most people don't have a spiritual goal. So by writing goals and putting it on paper and deciding what I want from them, instead of waiting for it just to happen to me, relationships, in order to have a great one, takes work. Yes, you got to put time and effort into it. It just doesn't happen. So, and if you do all the things that helped you fall in love with that person in the beginning, if you never stop doing them, you never fall out of love.
That's true.
So I focus on those areas and try to create a balance. It doesn't always happen, but I try.
Well, and to that end, you reestablished a relationship with your high school sweetheart. You kind of went your separate ways midlife, and now you've come back together. And why don't you share a little bit about that?
Well, Claudine and I met and dated in high school when we were 16. So we dated for a couple of years. And after high school, we ended up going our separate ways, but we remained friends over the years. And I got married, she got married, and then her husband unfortunately passed a handful of years ago.
About that.
And she actually called me up looking for a little bit of coaching. So we ended up getting closer and become friends. And around the same time, my wife and I had just decided that we would be friends. And we're still very good friends to this day. In fact, I moved out here in January. She moved out here, and all four of my kids moved out here in April.
With your ex-wife?
Yes. So we're all very close. My kids and Suzanne come over for dinner on Sundays, and it's just a nice way to go about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to that too. You keep talking about relationships, and for example, the relationship I have with my wife. I mean, we met each other in junior high school, and now we weren't high school sweethearts. We were just best friends. We didn't want to mess it up, so we didn't get married till out of high school. But this year we're celebrating our 40th wedding anniversary, and she's the love of my life and my best friend. And I think that to have that best friend foundation. Some people don't want to mess it up, and I understand that. But by the same token, you're doing life together.
Yes.
So why not do it with somebody who loves you unconditionally and accepts you for who you are, and you don't have to be somebody different around them?
Yeah. Well, it's the same with Claudine and I. We've been together now for a couple of years, and it's been amazing. We're just like, it almost feels like we picked up where we left off, and 30 years ago or whatever it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and how unusual and also great that you still maintain a fantastic relationship with your ex-wife, and you guys all get along, and the three of you get along, and the kids. But that's ideal.
Yes.
So that's so terrific.
Well, and it's because everybody involved are, in my opinion, very amazing people.
Yeah. So with work-life balance that we talk about, and I appreciate you sharing how you attempt to maintain that, but what would be your tips to our listeners to help them? I think most of us are looking for work-life balance, and I think there are two components to achieving work-life balance, and one is opportunity and one is discipline. Sometimes we don't have the opportunity because maybe a work situation or a commitment scenario requires us to put in more hours than we'd like to, whether it's,
Sure.
more than 8 hours a day at work, whether it's, 12, 15, 16 hours, and then we can't get out of that because that's the expectation that has been set for our job. But then it also requires discipline to understand that if you do have an opportunity and maybe you put in 8 hours one day, maybe 10 hours the next, but then you realize you have to give back to the other components of your life, because we have work, we have personal, we have family, and like you said, life, fitness and health. We have to also take care of ourselves, because if we're not well and we're not healthy, how can everything in our life be healthy?
Yeah.
But so what would be your greatest tips to our listeners to develop and maintain a healthy work-life balance?
Well, I'd start by saying discipline equals freedom. If you have a certain discipline in your life, it allows you to have the freedoms that you want. So, I'm very disciplined about writing my goals every year and adjusting them and looking at them every week. And, so I have my goals around the relationship with Claudine. I have my goals around the relationship with my kids, each one of them separate. I have goals around my friendships. I have goals around my spirituality. I have goals around my business and my finance and my health. And in order to have that balance, you have to focus on all of them. So you have to give them that attention. And I find, for me at least, writing down the goals on paper and being able to look at them and view them and make adjustments to them throughout the year, it gives me that ability to have that life balance.
That's a good tip. And I do like the idea, because it has to be visual, and I like using keeping a scoreboard. I think that's super important to keep a scoreboard and know how you're doing in each component. And like you said, while one might seem more important, but you do have to balance your time and resources so that they're all equally important.
Yes,
so, yeah.
Agreed, 100%.
You recently started a new venture of being a business and coach and consultant, which seems to me very natural for your experiences and the things you've done in your life. But what led you to start doing that?
Well, my vitamin business, it doesn't take a lot of my time. After 20 years of running it and putting automated systems in place and all that good stuff, it kind of runs itself for the most part. I mean, I have to be involved, obviously, otherwise it'd fall apart. And we want to continue to grow it. But at the same time, I was looking for something else to do. And I've been a coach basically my whole life. I've had a lot of experience in different businesses that I've owned and that I've worked in and things of that nature. And I just felt like with the economy the way it is today, and gas prices going through the roof, and groceries going through the roof, and small to medium businesses are struggling to some degree. Their cost of goods are more expensive. Their operations are more expensive. Everything about them is becoming more expensive due to the fact that we have a more expensive economy. And so I want to be able to help them, especially in my community. I mean, I work with people outside of my community as well, but I want to help the people in my community. I want to help small business owners be able to grow, be able to take their family on vacations, be able to increase their lifestyle, increase their kids' lifestyle, and be able to have that dream business that they got in business for. And so that's my passion around it. I want to be able to help them.
Mm-hmm. Which is noble, and I love that. But I also know you don't do it necessarily pro bono, and I'm going to put you on the spot. But how for example, someone who may be interested, a business owner out there who may be interested in talking to you or consulting or having you coach, how affordable is it?
It's affordable. It depends on the size of the business, obviously. But our goal is to help someone double their revenue in a period of time. And at a very minimum, my goal is to help them to cover my coaching fees in the first 1 to 2 months. So I'll help them find a strategy that will make sure to cover my coaching fees, so they're not stressed out about that side of it. And sometimes when people are struggling a little bit, I'll work on a percentage basis, where I might take a small fee, but at the same time, I'm working on their growth. Problem is with doing pro bono, I'm sure is when you're doing something for free, they're not going to do the work they need to do to get the value out of the coaching.
Yep.
And we've all experienced that. So we do charge, but I do guarantee that my coaching fees will be paid for in the course of our coaching. Otherwise, I'll just keep working with you until it's done for free.
Wow.
At that point.
And so your objective is to 2x their top line revenue.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yes.
And what time do you normally, in the first year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you been pretty successful achieving that
Yes.
so far? Okay. That's
Because it's not about, it's about ROI. If you're bringing in $10 million a year and you're pocketing 200,000, that's a much greater risk than bringing in $1 million a year and pocketing 250,000. So we got to factor in the ROI, and it's all about compounding. It's all about making small incremental changes in certain areas of a business that most people are missing. And my website's called find100ktoday.com, because my goal is to, in a 45-minute sit down, I'm going to find $100,000 in your business that you didn't know existed by implementing a particular strategy or whatever.
I wasn't aware of that website, so I'm going to have to check that out. But
there's a lot of great resources on there for people for free as well.
Well, I read your ebook. Your ebook is great, and I recommend folks to get that.
It's available on the website, or they can send me an email. That's greg@find100ktoday.com.
Okay,
and I'll make sure and send it out to them for free.
It's a good ebook with a lot of great suggestions and tips, and I think it's worthwhile read for sure. So we just shared a couple of emails, and I know that it's VitaSupreme.com and then find100ktoday.com.
Yes.
How else can folks reach you? I know you also have a couple email addresses, but which email addresses should they contact you?
Well, Greg@VitaSupreme.com, Greg with one G on the end, at VitaSupreme.com, and Greg at...
Well, it really has been great getting to know you and sharing your story with our listeners. I appreciate you coming on today.
Well, thanks for having me, Dan. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
Great pleasure.
Absolutely.
It's always fun to spend time with you.
I appreciate that. Well, thanks again for joining us today, and I look forward to make it a great day. Take care.